In today's video, I'm going to show you how to collect donations for your nonprofit or your political campaign directly in Squarespace using Squarespace's built-in donation functionality. You can do everything right in Squarespace without linking out to any other platforms. And you might find that the transaction fees are actually lower if you keep everything in Squarespace. If we haven't met, my name is Shannah and I am a Squarespace web designer in New York City. I create websites and website templates for people doing good work in the world. Now let's dive in. So let's start by taking a quick look at Squarespace pricing. You're looking here at the annual plans and the cost per month. And notice there are 4 plans: basic, core, plus, and advanced. And depending on which plan you have, your transaction fees are going to be different. The lower the plan, the higher your transaction fees. And to see what your transaction fees are going to be, you would scroll down here to accept payments. And this first fee here at the top is what you're going to pay for credit card processing if you're using Squarespace payments. In Squarespace, you can either collect payments using Squarespace payments and you would connect that to your bank account and that's how you would get paid. Or you can connect to a Stripe account, and I find the fees are very comparable. At the time of this recording, I think they are exactly the same. And they're going to vary depending on the type of credit card that's used or different types of payments people can make. But you see here the most common credit card rates, and notice that they get a little bit lower if you are on one of these higher plans up here. And then the second row is just a transaction fee that you're going to pay for every transaction. So if you are on this lowest basic plan, that's this first one here, that costs the least, you are also going to pay 2% for every donation that comes through on top of that credit card processing fee. And that online store transaction fee goes away on the core plan or higher. So if you're going to collect donations, I would recommend getting at least a core plan. And you can do the math to determine if it makes sense to get a higher plan for lower credit card processing fees if you're using Squarespace payments. And also keep in mind that you can ask your donors to cover the transaction fee. And it's pretty common to ask them to pay an additional 3% to cover that transaction fee. And that's going to cover the majority of your credit card fee. Now we're here on a blank demo website, and I'm going to show you how to add your donation form. I recommend creating a separate page for your donation form because you can grab a QR code and send that to people, which will take them directly to your donation page, and then they can donate directly. So that's a good idea. I'm going to go here to pages. I'm going to go to my not linked section. And if you scroll down here, you'll see that Squarespace already has some formatted pages that you can use for donations. So for now, I'm just going to pick this one here. And now if you just wanted to create your page from scratch and you don't want to start with one of these, all you need to do is add a donation form. So this has got some text and it's got a background, but this is just a donation form. So if I actually delete that, I can add a block and go down here to donation, and that is going to add this donation form to my page. Now, the other one was formatted a little bit differently, and we'll get to that in a minute, but let me show you how you would configure this form. So I'm going to click here on my donation block. I'm going to click the pencil here, and the first thing you're going to need to do is set up a payment processor. So if I click here, it's going to save this page here. And now you need to either connect to Squarespace payments and get that all set up. You're going to have to connect to your bank account, and it will step you through all the steps there. So you can also accept payments through PayPal or Venmo. Square would not be relevant here. This is if you are collecting payments in person, and we're just focusing on the website here. And then you can also connect to an existing Stripe account. So if you already have a Stripe account for collecting payments for people, or if you prefer to use Stripe, you can set that up outside of Squarespace and then connect Squarespace to your Stripe account. And I use Squarespace payments. I'm quite happy with it. So that's what I would recommend. But we're not going to be able to go through that here. So you can step through that. I'm going to close out here. I'm going to go back to my donation form in edit mode here. Click on the pencil again. And after you set up your payment processor, you want to click here under funds. And by default, your website comes with a general fund to get you started. I'm going to click the pencil here. Again, I'm going to leave edit mode of my page. And now I am updating my fund and setting up that contribution information on that donation form. So the first thing you want to do is change the name of your fund. This should match either your nonprofit or your political campaign. So let's just say Shannah Albert for City Council. And this is important because this name is going to be included on your donation receipts. So you don't want it to say general fund. Then you could add a disclaimer here that's going to appear below the donate button. So if it's a political campaign, you might want to put information here about what maximum contributions, or you have to be a US citizen. So you'd have to understand what your donation rules are for your campaign, but you could put that here. So I'll just put something here so you can see what it looks like. And then down here is where you can add additional fields to your donation form. So if you want to collect additional information like employer or occupation or other information that you might want for your nonprofit, you would click create a new form here to add those fields. Now, there are two different places where you can collect additional information from people who are making donations. You can collect it directly on this form, or you can collect it at checkout. And the difference is that currently, if you want to export any additional fields that you collect, you have to do it at checkout. So if you think you're going to collect a lot of donations and you want additional information that will go into a spreadsheet, it's really easy to analyze and get all of that data. You want to put that information at checkout. Otherwise, you can add it to this form. You just have to go into Squarespace to get it. I'm hoping Squarespace changes that and you can extract these fields. You should be able to extract these fields. For some reason, at the time of this recording, you can't. If that changes, I will put a note below because it looks better to add the fields to this form. So now let me go ahead and show you what it looks like to add the fields to your donation form. You're technically creating a new form that gets saved behind the scenes. So that's why it's formatted this way. But I'm going to call this donation form fields. This is just on the back end. No one sees this. And then by default, it's including name, email, phone, and message. I don't necessarily need these fields because I'm going to get them at checkout. When people give you their payment information, they're going to give you all this information and you don't want them to enter it twice. So I would delete these fields here. And then I'm going to click here to add additional fields. And there's all different kinds of fields that you can add. One little trick I'm going to show you is if you add a line field, this is how you can add some explanations if you want to explain why you're collecting different fields. So for a political campaign, for example, you might want to say employer information and add a little description of why you have to collect this. So I'm going to enter a little paragraph here explaining that we need to collect this because of political campaign rules. I'm going to leave an underline here. I'll show you what that looks like on the form. Then I'm going to add another field. I'm going to add a text field for occupation, and I'm going to make that required. And then I'm going to add one more field for employer, and I'm going to make that required. And notice you can add all different kinds of fields here. When I'm done adding my fields, I'm going to click apply. And now it's jumped me back here and I have added those additional fields to my form. Now, if we scroll down here, we can customize the amounts that we want to list on our form for donations. So you can add additional amounts. Say I want to add that $5 and I can drag it up to the top here. I can also remove amounts. So you can add as many donation amounts as you like that people can select. Here, I would recommend leaving this toggled on so people can enter custom amounts. Then here, if this is toggled on, you are asking your donors to cover the fees. They have the option to do this or not do this. 3% is a good default amount, but you can also make it higher or lower. Then down here, you can allow people to make recurring donations, and there are different time periods you can let people select. You can toggle them all on, or maybe you toggle these off so people can only pick monthly donations. And then you can have a default frequency. So by default, I would probably put one time, and then people can select monthly if they'd like to make a monthly donation. Or you can make the default monthly and they have to pick one time. That seems a little dangerous. So I'm going to go with one time here. And then when you're done, you're going to click save. And then when I hop back here, I can see my form. So I can see my donation amounts here. Now I'm allowing a custom amount, my default to one-time donation, but someone can select. Oh, let me get out of edit mode here into preview mode. Now here, someone can select monthly if they like. They can toggle on or off to cover the fees. Here you can see my little intro paragraph explaining that I need to collect occupation and employer data and what to enter if they are retired. Here's my donate button, and then here's where your disclaimer would show up. Now here, this is really hard to see on this background, so let me show you how you would also change the design of this form. So let's go back into edit mode. And now I'm going to click again on my donation form and click the pencil here. I'm going to back out, and now I see my design tab here. If you click this option here, you have set form design packs. So you can toggle through these and see if you like one of these better. So here my custom amounts are listed in boxes and going horizontally across the form. You can play with any of these that you like. I like this one here. So there's my general form style. And what I also want to do is turn the background on because this is on a background image. So I can toggle that on. I can change the line that goes around the edge. I can change it to a different color. I can make it thicker. I can change the corner radius here. Maybe I make it more curved. And there's all different things that you can adjust here for the design of your form. Let's put that back to straight line there. And then I just want to quit out here and click save. And now I have designed my form. Now, if I quit out here, let me show you how you can grab that QR code. So here I've got my separate donation page. If I click here on the settings and on the general tab here, I can toggle on QR code. This has generated a QR code that you can download to your computer, and then you can add this image to flyers or other graphics that you're creating so people can just scan it to quickly get to your donation page. You can also just save a picture of this on your phone and then hand it to people and they can scan and get right to your donate page. So let's save that QR code. And now we've got our donation form all set up. Now I mentioned that there's another place where you can collect additional information from your donors, and that is when they're checking out and entering their credit card information. So I'm going to show you how to do that because if you want those fields in your extract, that might be a better place to put them, but you can see what it looks like and decide where you want to put those fields if you need them. So I'm going to back out here to my main menu. I'm going to go down here to settings. I'm going to go to selling. I'm going to scroll down here to checkout, and then I'm going to scroll down to additional fields. And then notice here I have some options to say if I want to collect phone numbers or not. So you can turn these off if you don't want to collect phone numbers. But then down here, what we want to do is enable our custom checkout form and click edit custom form. And here's where we can add those additional fields. So you can change the title. I would just leave it as additional information. And then here it by default has a field for notes and additional info, and you can't delete that until you add more fields, but you can delete it later. So here I'm going to add a form field. Again, you have all the same options that you had on your donation form. So I could add a line, and this is going to be employer information. Then I have the description area where I can add that little paragraph there. And then over on the right, I'm seeing a little demo of what this will look like. I'm going to include my underline there. I'm going to click done. I'm going to add another form field. Here, I'll just do text for occupation. Down here, I make this required. Done. Add another form field for employer. Scroll down to make it required and click done. So this isn't as pretty, but again, if you want these in your spreadsheet extract, this is a good place to add them. I'm also just going to move this note down here to the bottom. And this is what my form will look like. I'm going to click save and save. And now I have updated my checkout screen. Now I just want to quickly show you where your donors are going to see those additional fields to fill them out when they're completing their donation. So after they click the donate button, they're going to come to a checkout screen that looks something like this. Now this is an example on my website and my additional fields are a little bit different, but it will give you an idea of what they will see. So I'm on my checkout form and people are going to see a summary of their donation. So the fund and the amount that they donated. And then down here is where they'll see that additional information. Again, my fields are different. I have a checkbox and I have a couple other fields, but they would see whatever your fields are right here and they would fill them out. And then on my website, I allow people to do Google Pay, or they would click more payment options. And then they get to the screen to complete their checkout. They're going to be asked for their email address, and they can decide if they want to join your mailing list. They're going to click continue. They're going to see those additional fields again. So if they didn't fill them out on the first page and they hopped right over here, they would fill them out here, and then they would continue, and then they would enter their credit card information and keep going. So that is how those additional fields work at checkout. Now, after someone makes a donation on your website, they are going to get a donation receipt email, and you can customize that email to make it more personal. So let me show you how to do that. I am going to back out here to my main menu. I'm going to go back into my settings. This time I'm going to pick customer notifications and scroll down here to donations. And here we see the donation receipt. And to edit this receipt, you want to click edit email. And up here on the right, you can see the subject line, and this is going to be the title of your website and just the words your donation receipt. So you can click in here and customize that if you like. And then if I move my cursor over different sections of my donation receipt over here, I can update them. Now, I wouldn't mess with this too much. I would leave the donation summary alone, and notice here that it's including your fund name. That's why you want to make sure you update that. We've got the donor information that the donor entered, and then there's a button here they can click to see the donation directly on your website. So I would leave all of that alone. But this first section here just says, thank you for your donation. You could personalize that a little bit. And then there's another sentence down here that you could personalize to say anything that you like. And notice here, it's going to automatically pull in the donor's first name, but you could change hi to something else if you like. So that's how you can change the content of the email. You can also change the styling of the email. So here on the Style tab, and if you don't see this, you might be on the Email tab, but if we click on the Style tab, we can select Global Email Styles. This is going to adjust the styles of all of the automated emails that get sent from your website. So confirming email list sign up, donation receipts, canceling monthly donations, things like that are automated emails. So if I click here on Global Email Styles, now here on this screen, the first thing you're probably going to want to do is click Quickly Match Your Site. So if I click that here, I have the option to apply the colors from my website. So I see all my color themes, and I would pick one of these two lighter themes here, and I wouldn't click one with a light text. I would click one with a dark text, so that's easy to read. You have these other themes, but they might be a little bit difficult to read, so use those with caution. I would use a lighter theme with black text. And then up here, this is a demo website, and I haven't uploaded a logo, but if I had a logo on my website, I could click Insert Logo here, and it will replace the site title in the heading, which is linked. So if someone clicks this site title, it links out to your website. But it would replace that with a logo, which is also linked. So if someone clicked on that, it would go back to your website. So you might want to click Insert Logo if you've got a logo on your website. And then if I back out here, I can also refine a little bit further. So I can pick any email background. That's this gray background here. I can change the content background. That's this content here. So this is currently white. I could change the color of the lines in the email. You see they're a light gray here. You could adjust the fonts, change the font sizes, change the text color. So you can tweak all of these different things in your global email styles. And again, this will apply to all of your global emails. You can also send yourself a test and put your email address in here, and you can see what the email looks like before you start sending it out to donors. So I'm going to click Save, which is going to save my global email styles. And I'm going to back out. And if I still needed to, I could go back in here and adjust the contents of my donation receipt email. And again, you could send yourself a test from here. So I'm going to back out. And now we have customized our donation receipt. Now, when someone makes a donation to your website, they're going to get a receipt, and you're also going to get an email notifying you of the donation. But you can also go into the back end of your website and find all of your donations. And that's what I'm going to show you now. We are here on my website because I've run some donations through to demo this for you. So if you're here in your website panel, if you click on donations, you get to this main screen here, which summarizes how many donations you've had, the total number of contributions, and you'll see some recent donations here. And if I click view all, that takes me here to this contributions tab, and I can see I've had 4 donations. And I can click here to view the back end, all the information about the donations. So I have blurred out my personal information here, but I can see how the person paid. Here I can see the fields that people entered on the donation form, so I can always find that information. And then down here, a summary of the contribution. And here are the fields that people enter at checkout, that additional information. So you will see all that information for your donations here in the back end. You can also print a receipt if people need an additional copy. Close out of here. And then here you can export data. So you can download to a spreadsheet, or you can auto export. Now, if I download to a spreadsheet, it's not going to include any of the additional fields here on the contribution page. If I do an auto export, I can connect my website to my Google Drive, and it will put all of your donations into a spreadsheet for you. So I recommend doing this before you start collecting donations. You can connect to your Google Drive. Let me disconnect and show you what that looks like. So now if I do connect and continue, it's going to ask me to log into my Gmail account. And then it's going to ask you down here, do you want one spreadsheet for all contributions? Or if you had multiple different funds, different things you were collecting for that were separated into different funds, you can do an individual spreadsheet by fund. So I'm going to pick one spreadsheet for all contributions. I'm just going to call it test and save. And that is going to automatically create a spreadsheet on your Google Drive. And every time someone makes a donation, the information is going to go into that spreadsheet. Now, in that spreadsheet, it is going to include the fields that are collected at checkout. It is not going to include the donation form fields. Again, if that changes, I will put a note below this video, but the auto export at least will include your additional checkout fields. So that's our contributions. We can also click here on funds. Here, I've got my one fund on my website. If I click these three dots here, I can view information about the fund. I can also change the name of the fund if I need to. Here's where I could change the name. I'm going to click save, and I could delete the fund if I wanted to. And if you were collecting for multiple different purposes on your website, you could create a second fund here and have multiple funds for collecting donations on your website. And then finally, I'm going to jump down here to finance, because this is another place where you can see all of your donations. They are going to fall here under orders. Now on my website, I am selling templates. So I've blurred out a template sale here, but I can also see all of my donations here under orders. Again, if I click here, I can find additional information about those donations, just like I can under contributions. And then here I can export data. Here's a little tricky thing. If I download this CSV from here under orders, I will get that additional checkout information. For some reason, it's here and not under donations, contributions. Or this here auto export is exactly the same interface that's going to connect to that spreadsheet, and you can connect to that field in your Google Drive. And then one other thing I want to show you is that Squarespace is also collecting lists of everyone who has donated to your campaign. So if you go under contacts and lists and segments, you'll find a section here called donors. And here it's going to collect a list of your new donors, your one-time donors, your repeat donors. These are people who have donated in the past year, I think, and these are people who haven't donated in the current year, but they donated previously. If you click within one of these lists, you will get details about what this list means, and that will explain the list to you. So all of your donors are here in these lists. So you can download these lists. You could also filter these lists. So let's say you wanted to find all the people who have donated at least $1,000. This might be helpful for your campaign reporting, and then you can filter and view the people who have donated that much, but none of my samples are that high. So I just wanted you to know that this is here, and this can be helpful to create your donor list. And if you're using Squarespace email campaigns, it can also be helpful to email your donors if you would like to. So that is everything you need to know to collect donations in Squarespace using Squarespace donations. If you have any questions, put them in the comments below. I hope you found this video helpful. If so, please feel free to like and subscribe so more people can find my content.